The story of what transpired here on Masada in the year 73 AD is worthy of a Hollywood movie. It is the last stand of the Jewish rebels against the Romans here on Masada. Three historical periods on Masada. The first would be the Hasmonean kingdom, that Jewish kingdom who begins to rule the land 143 BC until the Romans arrive 63 BC. The Hasmoneans built desert fortresses. Masada was one of them. However, we do not have any archaeological findings dating back to the Hasmoneans. The second period is all about Herod. Everything we see here on the mountain is the remains of the palace built by Herod. He was the greatest builder across the land, and what we see on Masada here today is all a part of that Herodian construction. The third phase is the phase of the Jewish revolt against the Romans beginning 66 AD. The Great Revolt begins in Caesarea, quickly spreads throughout the land. One of the first phases of the revolt is Jewish rebels who arrive here taking over the Roman garrison. They will remain until the year 73 AD when Flavius Silva will arrive with the Roman 10th Legion, and the end would be very tragic for the Jewish rebels. As we enter the northern palace, this is Herod's personal palace. What we see to the left is a quarry, because King Herod quarries the local material to build his own palace here. And on the right, what do we see? The commander's residence guarding the entrance to Herod's personal palace. Why does Herod need a fortress here? And the answer is that he is schizophrenic paranoid. He expects a mutiny against him anytime, anywhere. Masada was supposed to use as a place of refuge. From here, he will crush any revolt against him. And now we're about to enter the Western Palace. The question is, why does Herod need two palaces in the middle of nowhere? Looking down at the beautiful mosaics here in the Western Palace, the obvious answer is, well, if you're a schizophrenic paranoid and you see conspiracy everywhere, you wouldn't even trust your close guests and keep them at bay in a separate palace than the one you're staying in. The Roman world is all about leisure and entertainment, and the bathhouse is a part of that culture. A king like Herod would have his own private bathhouse. A Roman bath is not about washing the body. It's about leisure, it's about entertainment, it's about relaxing. And what would happen is that the first room would be the tepidarium, the lukewarm room, which is the one we are in now. A little more time in the lukewarm room, perhaps another glass of wine, some fruits, and we are ready to go to the main event, which is the warm room known as the caldarium. A testimony to the ingenuity of Roman engineering, we are now in the warm room, the caldarium. Masada is a desert fortress. We are in the desert and water is very scarce in the desert. Herod and his engineers realize that collecting water on the mountain is not enough. So what do? They collect the water that comes from around the mountain. And they conducted inside cisterns, which are dug on the sides of the mountain, just as we see here in the model. One of the main attractions here on Masada is the synagogue. This was not the synagogue at the time of King Herod, but rather this synagogue was built by the rebels. And we could just see how they sit around. And what it tells us is that before the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, there were synagogues and there were Torah books. We are now standing at the breaching point, and from here one could sense the drama. The Jews are shooting down arrows, they're rolling down stones, but the Romans keep coming, dragging up the siege ram, dragging up the siege tower, and then night falls. Night falls, everyone retreats back to their camps. The next morning, as Flavius Silva climbs up, there is an eerie silence on the mountain. And what does he discover? That the Jews have committed suicide. Masada has become a symbol for Israel and Israelis, a symbol of resisting foreign rule at any cost.